Welcome to episode 14 of the Min Effect, a podcast where we talk about sports and games. And in this episode, we're going to go back to talking about the Minnesota Vikings because this is what I've been just like doing a lot because it's really interesting lately talking about like the draft, the free agency, and that type of stuff because I love making predictions. Anyways, we're going to talk about the Minnesota Vikings' biggest thing to be focusing on free agency. I talked already about all of the people in free agency needs and that type of stuff in previous episodes, but today we're going to be specifically focusing on a key part of the Minnesota Vikings offseason that they need to focus on, and probably the biggest thing, and that's their secondary. The Minnesota Vikings secondary was great last year. I mean, their safeties were they had two number one safeties in the league, or two of the top safeties in the league. Their corners could have been better. I mean, Trey Waynes looked okay. Good. Mike Hughes didn't look that great. All these first round picks on corners just didn't look. I mean, Mike Hughes, Mackenzie Alexander, Trey Waynes, and Xavier Rhodes, all first round picks, and really only one of them looked like it last year, and that was Trey Waynes. So we're gonna get to that, and because the corners is the biggest thing, and then their linebackers. Anthony Barr didn't look as good, but it's okay. Eric Kendricks looked amazing. So their secondary was good. However, it's a big issue this offseason, especially in free agency, because they're facing three of their biggest players are entering free agency. Anthony Harris, they were saying, Rick Spielman was saying how like Anthony Harris will most likely not be back next year. As much as all of our fans, all of them, everyone would love to see it, it's just too hard to pay two safeties. And Anthony Harris, I wish the best for him. I hope he has an amazing rest of his career. In fact, I know he will, because he came out of nowhere, undrafted, and just turned out amazing. 7 interceptions last year. Great player. And I hope whatever team takes him, he will be used the best possible way. And the Minnesota Vikings will most likely need a new safety because Jaron Kearse will mostly also be gone. So Jaron Kearse, Anthony Harris, two of our safeties, our top 3 safeties, are going to be gone next year, and we're going to have to use Harrison Smith, who's still amazing, and then Andrew Sendejo, who's reaching the end of his years. He's getting really old. So a new safety we're going to need to bring in. And I don't think the Minnesota Vikings will bring in a safety this free agency. In fact, I know they won't, because we can't dip into that in free agency. We're just in such a bad cap spot, negative $21 million, and I don't think free agency... I think Minnesota Vikings will mostly just focus on giving new contracts to a lot of their free agent players, and maybe bring in a quarterback, maybe bring in a offensive tackle, someone who they can still pay, but they'll have to take like risks for. I mean, cutting Rhodes, that's another thing. We're going to get into that. But taking a safety in the draft, maybe first round if you can get Grant Delpit, maybe first round, although I probably wouldn't do that either. And then most likely second round, if Antoine Winfield is up there in the second round, I would take that because that'd be amazing. I know all the fans would love it, and the coaching staff would love it to work with a son of one of our best corners to ever play for the game. But anyways, that's the safety position. Safety position was probably our best position last year. Safety and linebackers were probably our best position last year. And this next year, it's not looking like safeties are going to be as good as they were last year. I mean, well, because we're not going to have Jaron Kearse or Anthony Harris. Most likely, we're not going to have those two players because Jaron Kearse, I don't think he wants to be here. I don't think Mike Zimmer wants him here. And because their relationship is not that great from what I've seen. Anthony Harris, I know they would love to bring Anthony Harris back, but it's a lot of money, and you can't pay two safeties like that. So I wish Anthony Harris all the luck. Same with Jaron Kearse. And going on to corners. Now, corners was a position that was very, very much of a hole in our last year. I mean, they were throwing all over us these on the outside, and it was just not looking good. Trey Waynes, free agent. I hope we can get Trey Waynes back. That's huge. Trey Waynes is great on man coverage, great on zone coverage, everything you can use Trey Waynes for. And then to pair him up, so I would say take Trey Waynes back, and you have to pair him up with Mike Hughes. Cut Rhodes. Get Rhodes out of here. In fact, if you don't even manage to get Mackenzie Alexander or Trey Waynes back, if you take Rhodes back, use him in the slot. Don't use Rhodes for what he was doing last year. He got killed on everyone. I mean, Terry McLaurin, new player in the NFL, no one knew who he was coming out of college, came over here and destroyed him. Now, Terry McLaurin was obviously one of the greatest rookie wide receivers of last season, but to destroy Xavier Rhodes, who was a first-team All-Pro a few years back and made a ton of Pro Bowls, yeah, that doesn't look that great. I mean, he's a rookie that no one knew who existed, and everyone knows who Xavier Rhodes is. So Xavier Rhodes, if you take him back, use him inside the slot. In fact, I don't think they're going to get rid of Xavier Rhodes as much as I would love to see that. In fact, I don't think Mike Zimmers will want to get rid of Rhodes. I think other staff will probably get their word in, and then they'll end up getting rid of Rhodes, and that's what I hope happens. I don't think Mike Zimmers will get rid of Rhodes and or Anthony Barr. I was saying how I hope they should trade Anthony Barr and maybe get like a second round pick even for Anthony Barr. I mean, Eric Wilson looked great, but I don't think Mike Zimmers is going to get rid of Xavier Rhodes or Anthony Barr because those are his guys. When he came here, he got those two players and developed them into who they are. And I don't think that we're going to get rid of those two players as much as I would love to see it. And Anthony Barr has a lot of history here. I mean, he was college roommates with Eric Kendricks and all that kind of stuff, so he's not going to go anywhere. But we're going to get back into Xavier Rhodes, and I hope they cut Rhodes. I don't think it'll happen. If they take Rhodes back, use him inside the slot. Don't use him for what he was doing last year. Use Holton Hill and Mike Hughes as outside corners. Xavier Rhodes in the slot, and Eric Kendricks for what he does. Harrison Smith for what he does. Anthony Barr for what he does, which is not what you were doing last year. Use him on the outside. Get to the quarterback. That's what he does best. And a new safety, Antoine Winfield. Please, if he can fall to us, take Antoine Winfield. He's expected to go more mid-second round now, so I wouldn't trade up for a safety as much as I love Antoine Winfield, but if he's there, take him. Easy. And then Mackenzie Alexander. If they take Mackenzie Alexander back, Rhodes is gone. That's what I hope happens because Mackenzie Alexander is such a good slot corner. People forget how good this guy is inside the slot. He's not a first-round pick. Well, he was a first-round pick, but he didn't live up to that. But he's still great. You can take him back for minimum what you can get for him, and Trey Waynes will go up a ton, and Trey Waynes will get taken by a team like the Chiefs, a team that's ready to win now. I mean, they just won the Super Bowl, so of course they are, but just needs players on defense because of how great how much value the cornerback position has, and how little their corners are in the league that can live up to what Trey Waynes has to offer. So I don't think Anthony Harris will be back. I hope Xavier Rhodes is not back, and if that happens, Mackenzie Alexander will be back. But the most likely scenario out of all of these is for all of them to be gone. Is for Jaron Kearse to be gone. Is for Anthony Harris to be gone. Trey Waynes to be gone. Mackenzie Alexander to be gone. And Xavier Rhodes still being here. That's the most likely possibility to happen. If not, switch out taking Mackenzie Alexander back and cutting Rhodes. That's what I hope happens. And I hope we can get Anthony Harris back, of course. However, I'm really not seeing that happen. I don't think we're going to get Kearse back. And I hope we can get Trey Waynes back, but that also looks pretty unlikely because of this cap space. So this is the biggest decision the Vikings have to make this free agency, which is why I wanted to make a whole video about it, talking like, don't expect them to do anything. Really, like, don't expect anything big happening in free agency for this secondary of the Minnesota Vikings team because of how bad their cap scenario is and because of how much these players are going to have to cost. And I don't see anything big, the Vikings making any big moves on the whole defense at all. I don't see the Vikings taking any defensive players in free agency. It's going to be a really dry free agency for the Minnesota Vikings. I hope on offense we can see some players. I hope we can see some guards, offensive tackles, maybe a quarterback to play for Kirk's job. I hope on offense we see things happening in free agency, like big moves. But defense, I don't see them making any moves. And it's really annoying because we need a corner. And a corner in the first round, we could land like Trayvon Diggs, someone who can be a second out of college. But next year, we're going to have to play Mike Hughes, and we're going to have to hope Mike Hughes can live up to his potential. We haven't seen enough of him for him to really grade him compared, but I've seen enough of Trey Waynes to know he can go against a lot of these top wide receivers, and I hope Trey Waynes is back. That's the move I want to see happen, but it's looking very unlikely. Maybe I just don't want to get my hopes up. So let me know what you think will happen for the Minnesota Vikings secondary this offseason, or this free agency, as free agency kicks off March 18th. Let me know any secondary players you think will come back, any players you think they will take in free agency, players they will trade and cut, if they'll cut Rhodes, if they'll keep Rhodes and play him inside the slot. Don't play him as a 2 anymore because I'm tired of seeing this guy get killed by wide receivers. Yeah, just let me know anything I'm missing, anything you would change. And as always, till next time.